They were icons, worshipped on screen, immortalized in black and white, remembered in gold. But behind the glitter of old Hollywood lies a truth far less polished and far more human. What if we told you that the stars you adored didn't just sparkle? They sometimes stank. From sour breath to sweat-drenched costumes, from eccentric rituals to hygiene horrors, this is the side of fame that never made the front page. In this episode, we're lifting the velvet curtain to reveal the raw, unfiltered reality of the most glamorous legends in film history. Get ready for scandal, surprise, and scent. Because in Hollywood's golden age, not everything smelled like roses. If you're ready to dive into the strange, shocking, and sometimes smelly secrets of Tinseltown, don't forget to like and subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Clark Gable, the man with a cinematic smile and sophisticated aura that made millions swoon. But behind that dazzling charm was a truth that made anyone standing nearby hold their breath. By the age of 32, he had lost most of his real teeth due to severe gum disease, forcing him to wear dentures. These dentures were not only uncomfortable, but also caused such a notorious case of bad breath that it became part of Hollywood's backstage legend. Vivien Leigh hesitated to film kissing scenes, and Sophia Loren reportedly asked to reduce close-up shots because she couldn't tolerate the smell from his mouth. Gable refused to use mouthwash, fearing it would affect his voice, which he considered a vital acting tool. Directors often had to adjust camera angles and keep physical distance to avoid discomfort on set. Perhaps when you're a monument of fame, it's easy to believe you're exempt from the little things, like body odor. What would you think if the most attractive man on screen made you want to turn your face away because of his breath? One crew member once said they had to discreetly reposition fans on set just to redirect the airflow away from his co-stars. Gable, aware of the whispers, maintained a cold confidence, as if his stardom could overpower any flaw. Joan Crawford, a symbol of perfect beauty, discipline, and extreme self-control. She washed her hands until they bled and demanded her staff keep every corner of her house spotless. But behind the bold red lipstick was a truth that made people wince up close. In pursuit of the sculpted face idealized by Hollywood, Crawford had her molars removed to achieve sunken cheeks. The result was disastrous. Her front teeth began to separate, requiring cement and crowns. This led to chronic gum infections, creating a stench described as strong enough to wake the dead. Makeup artists often held their breath while working on her face. Someone once said that whenever Crawford opened her mouth, the air around her seemed to thicken. Contrary to her regal, polished image on screen, she was a walking contradiction between obsessive control and helplessness with her own body. When she drank, the odor grew heavier, like a nightmare of alcohol mixed with antiseptic. And yet, no one dared mention it. Because Crawford wasn't just a movie star, she was the unspoken fear of the entire set. If you were a perfectionist artist, what would you do if your own body became the one flaw you couldn't hide? Marilyn Monroe walked into frame like a dream bathed in light, the ultimate icon of beauty and allure. But that dream quickly gave way to reality, thick with sweat and disregard for hygiene. Monroe disliked bathing, skipped deodorant, and often went without underwear. Under the hot set lights, her body odor only intensified. Costumes would become soaked in sweat within hours, prompting wardrobe staff to use powder and perfume in emergency touch-ups each day. On the set of The Misfits, even Clark Gable, no stranger to bad breath himself, reportedly complained about Monroe's hygiene. He remarked that her beauty existed only on film. While off-screen, she was a total letdown. Makeup assistants carried tissues, baby powder, and air fresheners at all times, like essential props. There were moments when filming had to be paused just to refresh the air around her. Yet Monroe always shone on camera as if none of these issues existed. Perhaps that was the unique magic of stars, masking the smell of truth beneath the glow of studio lights. Marlon Brando, one of the greatest actors of the 20th century. But as time went on, he became famous not only for his talent, but for his bizarre disregard for personal hygiene. Brando would arrive on set with messy hair, wrinkled clothes, and often barefoot. There were times he walked into the studio with food wrappers stuck to his shirt, unshaven, and a pungent garlic stench on his breath. He once deliberately ate garlic and onions before love scenes to mess with his co-stars, thinking it was a joke, but no one found it funny. Co-stars kept their distance, directors felt helpless. But who could complain? He was Marlon Brando, the man who could turn any role into an icon. While crew members quietly prepared air fresheners and tissues on set, no one dared say a word. An actress once shared that the air felt thicker the moment Brando walked into a room. He knew it, but didn't care. Once, he even proudly said, "If my acting can't outshine my smell, then I'm not good enough." Crew members tried opening windows or turning on strong fans when he arrived, but that distinctive scent seemed to be part of him. If you're drawn to the truths that live behind the spotlight, hit like and subscribe to journey deeper into untold Hollywood. Greta Garbo, the enigmatic icon of classic Hollywood cinema. Her cold beauty, deep eyes, and reclusive lifestyle made her a living legend. But that same lifestyle meant she often avoided bathing, sometimes for days. Filmmakers recalled that during close-up scenes, many co-stars had to hold their breath, not from emotion, but from the smell. One actor once said, "Garbo didn't need makeup to look ethereal, because fairies probably don't bathe either." Still, Garbo never cared about the whispers. To her, distance was the fog that concealed all truths. No one was allowed into Garbo's private world, not emotionally, not even olfactorily. A makeup assistant once confessed to using scented cloths while adjusting her hair, not out of disgust, but because the lingering smell around her collar and hair was too overwhelming. On screen, she remained flawless, every frame a work of art. But behind the lens, everyone knew she was someone best admired, from afar. Perhaps that very mystery was how she ensured the world would never forget her. Jean Harlow, Hollywood's first sex bomb, with platinum hair that glowed and a gaze that burned. But behind the spotlight, Harlow had habits that surprised many. She hated bathing, truly hated it. In an era when film sets had no air conditioning, Harlow would often sweat profusely, yet she refused to use deodorant or change clothes regularly. This forced co-stars to grit their teeth during close scenes. One director once quipped, "A love scene with Harlow might make you fall in love or pass out." Studios assigned staff to constantly spray perfume, air out her costumes, and refresh her appearance before every shot. Makeup artists had to use deodorizing powder and place scented cloths inside her undergarments, a last resort tactic. Sometimes even a light hug would leave her scent clinging to co-stars for the rest of the day. But no matter how strong her body odor was, Harlow's beauty always blinded the audience. She didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to shine. A close friend once said, "Jean never apologized for her smell, because she knew she was Jean Harlow." Do we love them for who they truly are, or for the light we choose to see them in? Vivien Leigh, the talented and beautiful actress who left the world breathless as Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. On screen, she embodied elegance, melancholy eyes, and a tragic grace in every performance. But few knew that, in real life, Vivien battled bipolar disorder every single day. During long, depressive episodes, she lost control of herself, going days without bathing or changing clothes. Once, she showed up on set in a wrinkled dress, disheveled hair, a vacant stare, and an indescribable odor. No one dared to mention it directly. Vivien was easily angered and deeply sensitive. Ironically, she had once been the one to complain about Clark Gable's breath. Now, she was the one the entire set tiptoed around. A crew member once said, "We weren't afraid of her yelling. We feared the silence and the heavy smell every time she sat alone in a dark corner." There was even a time when filming had to be paused because her co-star couldn't continue a close-up scene. That smell wasn't just of unwashed skin, it was the scent of pain, of sleepless nights, of a broken heart barely hidden under a fragile layer of makeup. Lana Turner, the sultry icon with flawless looks, voluminous blonde hair, and eyes that could speak volumes. But few knew she held a firm belief that sweat was the body's way of detoxifying, and it shouldn't be suppressed. So she refused to wear deodorant. On the stuffy, overheated film sets, Turner would sweat endlessly, and her natural scent quickly filled the room. Many co-stars winced, but no one dared to speak up. Turner was notoriously sensitive. Her costumes would sometimes be drenched, leaving sweat stains under her arms, and the wardrobe team had to switch outfits repeatedly between takes. One male actor once said, "She was like a dream until you stood less than a meter away." Once, a makeup artist had to tuck a scented cloth into her collar just to ease the air around her. Turner's scent wasn't exactly foul. It was too real, too human, too intimate. So much so that it shattered the illusion of cinema magic. While the screen projected an image of pristine beauty, the backstage was filled with the scent of someone living so honestly, she didn't hide a thing. Ava Gardner, the wild muse with deep green eyes and a defiant spirit. Unlike most prim and proper stars, Gardner lived by instinct, and that extended to her hygiene habits too. She loved going barefoot, not just at home, but even on set. The smell of her feet lingered on rugs, chairs, and in the memory of anyone who sat beside her. Gardner was also known to skip baths frequently, especially after wild all-night parties. Her breath sometimes carried the scent of hard liquor and cigarettes, blending into a Hollywood fragrance no one wanted to inhale. A co-star once said, "Ava could intoxicate you with her beauty and sober you up instantly with her scent." Still, Gardner never apologized. She believed true allure came from freedom. In an interview, she once said, "I don't live to please others. I live to feel real." The crew often had to open windows, replace chairs, or deodorize the room after she left. But no one could deny that gaze, that walk, still held everyone captive. Yet the price of freedom is sometimes quiet isolation behind the spotlight. Thanks for staying till the end. If this story lingered with you, don't forget to like and subscribe. There's more behind-the-scenes truth to come. Bette Davis, with eyes sharp as blades and a will of steel, she was a force to be reckoned with in Hollywood, known not only for her immense talent, but also for her fierce, no-nonsense personality, both on and off screen. But few knew of her unusual habit. She rarely used deodorant, instead favoring heavy perfume and strong alcohol. The result was a scent impossible to mistake, a blend of sweat, French perfume, and whiskey. Co-stars would joke that you could smell Davis before you saw her. Her infamous feud with Joan Crawford was, in part, sparked by this very issue. Crawford, known for her obsessive cleanliness, once quipped that Davis carried a full bar around on her skin. On the set of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, their rivalry played out not only through dialogue, but through scent. Rumor had it Davis would skip bathing before close-up scenes with Crawford, while Crawford would discreetly spritz perfume around her seat whenever Davis drew near. A makeup assistant recalled that whenever the two shared a dressing room, the air thickened, like perfume and liquor were arguing in silence. Davis once said, "I don't need to be pleasant to smell. I just need to be unforgettable." Tallulah Bankhead, her name synonymous with chaos, glamour, and the untamed spirit of old Hollywood. She had no regard for etiquette, no care for judgment, and even less concern for bathing. Bankhead was infamous for her wild lifestyle of liquor, cigarettes, and scandalous love affairs. Her scent was described as a cocktail of stale gin, baby powder, and lingering smoke. During a Broadway performance, a fellow actor once asked for a line change just to avoid standing close to her. She laughed and said, "If you can't handle my scent, then act with your eyes." Though polarizing, Bankhead was still admired because she hid nothing. In an interview, she boldly declared, "I don't want to be remembered for being clean. I want them to remember me because I took their breath away." A crew member once said that after Bankhead left the makeup room, they had to keep the door open for an hour just to clear the air. But maybe that was her plan, to leave her mark, even in the oxygen. A sound technician once joked that whenever Bankhead entered a set, they didn't need to record footsteps. Her scent already announced her presence. And just like that, she walked into history. Not just with her voice, but with an aura that left the entire space gasping. Mary Astor, known for her grace and poise in films like The Maltese Falcon, was the picture of old Hollywood elegance. But beneath that composed exterior was a woman battling private demons. Astor struggled with alcohol addiction, and over time it took a toll not only on her health, but on her hygiene. Her perspiration often carried a heavy, sour scent of booze that lingered on set. Wardrobe staff whispered about having to hang her costumes outside overnight to let them air out. When her drinking worsened, so did the body odor, and even the best makeup teams couldn't fully conceal it. Co-stars learned to quietly step back during scenes. Directors would schedule fewer close-up shots. Despite whispers, few dared confront her, partly out of respect, partly out of fear. One day, a fellow actress entered the makeup room and found it vacant, yet the air still carried the bitter scent of bourbon and anxiety. "She'd been there," the actress said, "even if you couldn't see her." But despite it all, Astor's talent kept her in the spotlight. Veronica Lake, with her iconic peekaboo hairstyle and icy allure, captivated millions in the 1940s. But working with her was, according to many, less glamorous than it seemed. Lake was known for poor hygiene habits, especially related to her hair. She would sometimes go days without washing it, causing a buildup of oil, sweat, and styling product that created an unpleasant odor. Her signature waves might have looked perfect on screen, but up close, they trapped a scent no perfume could mask. Crew members dreaded intimate setups, and some actors admitted to holding their breath during love scenes. One hairstylist once quipped, "That peekaboo hair might have hit her eyes, but it didn't hide the smell." Her vanity table was said to be cluttered with perfumes and powders, a desperate attempt to cover something that could not be disguised. Lake also had periods of heavy drinking, which worsened the problem, making her sweat sharp and acrid. Once, after a long shoot under hot studio lights, a costume assistant was seen discreetly dabbing powder inside the collar of her dress before the next take. Yet, her cool, distant beauty remained magnetic to audiences. She was a star you admired from afar, because up close, the truth was harder to breathe. Howard Hughes, the billionaire genius, film producer, and aviation pioneer, once embodied wealth, power, and impeccable style. But as his mental health deteriorated, so did his hygiene, in the most extreme way imaginable. Hughes became a recluse, locking himself in darkened hotel rooms for months at a time. He refused to bathe, let his nails grow grotesquely long, and often wore tissue boxes on his feet instead of shoes. The man who once demanded spotless movie sets and custom suits now surrounded himself with jars of his own urine. The smell of his living quarters became the stuff of legend, a potent mixture of decay, sweat, and paranoia. Staff had to wear masks when entering his space, and some refused to work near him altogether. One housekeeper described the air as so dense, it clung to your clothes even after you left. Trash piled high in corners, the curtains never opened, and stale food molded on plates untouched for weeks. Yet, Hughes continued to dictate billion-dollar decisions from within that fetid cocoon. Charlie Chaplin, the genius of silent cinema who made millions laugh without uttering a word, also carried an unforgettable, scented secret. Chaplin rarely changed out of his iconic tramp costume, and that weathered coat carried the smell of sweat, cigarette smoke, and dusty studio floors. A co-star once said that after several days of shooting, Chaplin would still wear the same outfit, merely wiping it down with a damp cloth. During scenes that required hugging, dancing, or tumbling, everyone held their breath because his clothes and hat carried an aura of their own. At one point, a crew member secretly tucked a mothball pouch into his pocket to freshen things up, only for Chaplin to discover it and toss it straight into the trash. To him, costume wasn't just clothing, it was part of the character's soul. "If I change the coat, I'm no longer the tramp," he once said. And perhaps audiences didn't love him because he smelled pleasant, but because he was real. Even on the days when his presence was hard to endure, people watched him with admiration, because no one brought laughter so close to the heart, even when it came with a scent that lingered. They were icons, worshipped on screen, immortalized in black and white, remembered in gold. But behind the glitter of old Hollywood lies a truth far less polished and far more human. What if we told you that the stars you adored didn't just sparkle? They sometimes stank. From sour breath to sweat-drenched costumes, from eccentric rituals to hygiene horrors, this is the side of fame that never made the front page. In this episode, we're lifting the velvet curtain to reveal the raw, unfiltered reality of the most glamorous legends in film history. Get ready for scandal, surprise, and scent. Because in Hollywood's golden age, not everything smelled like roses. If you're ready to dive into the strange, shocking, and sometimes smelly secrets of Tinseltown, don't forget to like and subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming next.